Good morning. I'm going to call the board meeting of June 11th to order. Thank you for being here. Maria Luisa, could you please call roll?
Mayor Jimenez, Ms. Gutierrez. Here. Mr. Martinez.
Here.
Mr. Meyer, Mr. Walters, Treasurer Board,
Here.
Secretary Wolf,
Here.
Vice Chair Edmondson, Chair Smith-Fano.
I switched it. Sorry about that. Mr. Walters, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
To the flag.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm sorry, I jumped in. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay.
At this time, I'd like to ask if there's any changes or edits to the agenda.
There are none, Madam Chair.
Then agenda. Mr. Counsel, in the voting conflicts, please.
Do any members of this board have any conflicts with any item on the agenda? Seeing none, we move forward.
This time, is there anyone in the audience that has a citizen's comment? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Okay, we have an action item. Can I have a motion, please?
Action item A, approval of revised fiscal year 2019 annual budget and funding requirements. And for the record, the motion failed at the committee.
I'll move for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I'll open for discussion, but I'd like to remind everybody that this is strictly conversation on the budget. Mr. Counsel, if you could reiterate that in legal terms?
Yeah, that's correct. We want to stick to the revised fiscal year 2019 annual budget. That's what's a motion on the floor.
Thank you very much. Open for discussion. No discussion? Then we'll, Marie?
Yes, the action item, just to clarify, is an authorization of spending for the operating expenses of $54.3 million, debt service of $101.5 million, and to fund the work program at $101.1 million, and $920,000 for non-project capital. Total expenditures is $156,756,511 for fiscal year 19. That's the authorized spending that we're requesting.
I do have a question. Whatever comes out of our voting today, does this preclude staff from looking further into additional efficiencies?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussions? Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Wolf?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I hope it's quick. The consequence of a no vote would mean that the budget would remain as we previously passed it, which means it would be further negative since we did pass the total reduction.
Actually, ironically enough, the answer is no to that. The way the indenture works is if the governing body does not improve the upcoming year's budget, the current year's budget actually goes into effect, which is actually $5.6 million higher than what we're proposing.
The consequence, we would be even further in arrears.
That is correct.
We wouldn't be at 3 or 4 million. We'd be over 20 million.
We would be somewhere around $10 million. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification, Marie. Mr. Board?
So, Marie, when you put together the reserves of $9.4 million, could you explain a little bit about what your concerns were and how you arrived at that number, and why eliminating it, what do you think the effect would be in the budget that we're about to vote on?
Last year, we had a reserve, hurricane reserve of $3.2 million. And we based it on previous years of suspension of tolls. And the actual analysis was we suffered suspension of tolls for, I think, almost 7-8 days, and that was roughly a little over $8 million. So when we look to put together fiscal year's 19's budget, we looked at the experience. We lost $8 million. So we actually captured a little bit over, I think, 12 days, and we did an average of the first quarter of the fiscal year with a hurricane season really is. And that's how we came up with the $9.4 million. Now, if a hurricane approaches, we do follow the state. It's a safety issue, so we're not going to jeopardize the public. We will suspend tolls, and that is lost revenue. And we're going to have to, in a sense, we're actually kicking the can down the road. How do we handle that going forward in the event that we lose that revenue base?
Second question. Do you think, in your experience, is the sensitivity to declaring emergencies at the state level has changed throughout the years, and are they more proactively suspending tolls than they were, call it, 10 years ago?
I believe so, yes.
Last question is, when you did the exercise trying to cover the $4.8 million shortfall, in which you put some boundaries, you said, I'm not going to be, or the staff decided, we're not going to touch essential services. So the only bucket that is left to pursue those $4.8 million, if we don't touch operations and maintenance, the only place where we can try to find those monies is in administration.
That's correct.
So to try to find $4.8 million within a spend perimeter of $5.7 million would be somewhere near a 80% reduction of the administration. Do you feel that is that attainable in any way?
No, it is not.
No further questions, Madam Chair.
Mr. Ward, any other questions? Mr. Martinez?
Marie and Mr. Rodriguez, if talking about not passing this budget, okay, and this budget is based upon the fact that the tolls were reduced. And that's why we asked to continue this today so we can get a reassessment. If we don't pass it and we stick with last year's budget, and we are now looking at a $20 million potential shortfall, what is that? What ramifications will that have for us moving forward?
I think the practicality of it is that even though we will keep the current year's budget and submit that to the trustee to be compliant with our requirements, we cannot in good conscience spend more money than we have available. So I will tell you that the executive director is not going to authorize us to spend money we do not have. So what we have before you is what we believe we're able to spend within the parameters of what our operating system generates from a revenue base.
So we won't spend them. I mean, I'm a little confused with what, that was an answer that if I can't understand it, no one else can understand it. Basically, you're saying you'll authorize a budget, but you won't spend the $20 million extra, I guess? So the project won't.
That's, you know, the mechanics of this board not approving a budget.
Okay.
The way, the mechanics of it is that we would have to give the trustee the last budget that was approved, which
Got
is the
that part.
current year's budget.
That part I got.
That budget is higher than what we're proposing here today.
Got that too?
So the executive director is not going to allow us to spend money we don't have in additional to the shortfall, is what I'm saying to you. So the expenditures that we would spend would be no more than what we're proposing here today.
Okay. So in other words, whether we pass it or not, these cuts are still going to go into place? Is that what I'm being told?
Well,
Break it down to, I mean, because that's,
just a clarification, though.
I'm just trying to clarify that.
The revenue base has already been approved. The toll rates have already improved in the
that.
prior meeting. What we're requesting here is to authorize to suspend the operating budget, to pay our debt service, and to fund the capital program to where we're able to fund it. That, it's an authorization of spending is what the budget is.
okay.
Right. So, I mean, it sends a conflicting message is the way that I would look at it, because we already authorized the reduction of revenues. So this is the consequence of that, which is how are we going to spend the revenues? How are we going to operate the system? And that's what we propose to you. And this year's operating budget is almost $5 million less than last year's. So we did find all those. So
Yes.
even if we refer back to last year's budget, There's no way I can spend or authorize the expenditure of that. So not only do the cuts go in place, but the expenditures won't occur. But the bigger issue is you're sending a message that you reduced revenue, but you don't want to adopt the budget. So it's a confusing message.
Okay.
Mr. Wolf?
Yeah, I would just note that we lost unexpected income during the hurricane last fall, and we made some adjustments at that time. And that's a normal function of the board, to be tracking the budget performance and making changes and reacting as we go. And just as the executive director would not prudently authorize expenditures that are not fully funded, neither would the board be silent in dealing with that.
If there's no other comments, I'm going to call the question. Maritza?
Thank you. I think it's important that we all realize what it is we're doing, whether it's the old budget or this budget, okay? We're not supposed to be drinking Kool-Aid, and if we are, we need to move from the Kool-Aid and go to water, straight water, okay? Seriously, and I don't mean any disrespect to our board members, because I love each and every one of you. But I have been here the longest. I have fought for MDX, and I give my time, and I'm a solo business owner, with partners, and I leave them to come here and give my time, okay? Because I believe in this, and I believe in what we're doing for this community, okay? As we look at this, okay, we need to really reconsider. How are we then going into the lion's den, and we have no way out and no way to defend ourselves? Or what is the safest route? And the safest route is something that's not on the agenda, something that is not that we're voting for, because neither way of the two solutions right now is really the right thing, only if you are drinking Kool-Aid. I can't.
Okay. Maria Luisa, could you please call the roll?
But I guess my question is, so are we looking for them to, is your suggestion that another budget be recreated? I'm a little confused on what, because we made an action, we passed a 5% reduction. We are now, we asked them to propose a budget to us. We have to, I mean, we have to do something one way or the other. Are we saying that we would like them to go back to look at other cuts? Is that what you're suggesting, Ms. Gutierrez? I'm trying to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. I think that in reality is we need to do what's the right thing for MDX and for this community, and we should consider giving a discount, but obviously we can't afford this discount.
Thank you very much, board
And I want
members.
a full clarification. What does a no vote for this mean, and what a yes vote for this mean, so we all understand what we're getting into?
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Marie, did you not say a few minutes ago that either way, it does not preclude staff from looking for more efficiencies and more cuts?
Doesn't preclude us, doesn't mean we're going to find it, but certainly we're going to do our best.
I'm not asking you to perform magic. I'm just asking you to put on the sharpest pencil in your hand and try and make it happen.
Every time we bring forth the treasurer's report every month, we will report the results and we will manage accordingly.
Mr. Counsel, it's my understanding what we're voting on now is the budget either passes as they've modified it, or it goes back to the previous budget, correct? Correct, Marie?
That is correct.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to take one more question, Mr. Walters.
Apologies for not being here at the last meeting, but it sounds to me like if the rollback was put in place before there was an understanding of what the impact was going to be, and it seems kind of backwards to me, that maybe we should have had the information up front, what the impacts would be, and then make a decision, yeah, we can do this, no, we can't.
I respect what you're saying, but we're here today, and this is what we're moving on. I totally understand and respect your words.
Well, somebody could make a motion who was on the prevailing side and reconsider.
Well, right now, we have a motion and a second on the floor about the budget, and I am calling the question. Maria Luisa, could you please do it?
Mr. Board,
No.
Ms. Gutierrez,
No.
Mr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Walters, Mr. Wolf,
Yes.
Chair Fano. Yes. It's tied.
Mr. Council?
It's 3-3, the motion would fail. Ties loose.
Or we revert back to last year's budget?
That's what we're going to do.
I would entertain a motion if it's about the budget, sir.
It is about the budget. Could we discuss a motion in which we approve the budget, but we change the previous decision about the 5% discount?
I very highly respect you. Unfortunately, I believe we need to call the 7-day rule. The whole board needs to think about it, digest it, speak to staff, and you can get a second and then we can vote on it, but in my view, I believe that's, if I'm wrong, Mr. Council?
Yes, each board member has the opportunity to call 7-day rule if the item is not on the agenda.
Thank you, sir.
No, you have every right to do so.
Since
Mr. Martinez?
That's fine.
I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to disrespect Mr. Ward, I'm not sure if he can, because he was not on the prevailing party, to be able to move to reconsider. However, as a courtesy to Mr. Board, so that we can have this discussion on the 26th, I will move to reconsider the 50 cents, so that based upon that, it cannot be done today, it's a 7-day, we can do it at the next board meeting. Yes, go ahead.
If I may, it's not a reconsider, it's a rescind of the action taken by the board in the last meeting. And on the prevailing side, just like you, I would like to rescind that action taken so we can then move on the budget that was being presented to us. Because, again, I'm not going to drink Kool-Aid and go and expend things that we can't afford to expend, but I do believe in a discount program that we can afford. So I'd like to make a motion as one of the prevailing side to rescind.
Once again, Ms. Gutierrez, I totally respect you. You're the longest person on this dais that has been on the board, but I would need to call the 7-day rule because I believe we need time to discuss this, to think about it, and not knee-jerk.
It also means, Madam Chair, with all due respect, that this item can actually hit our real operations meeting or real budget meeting and/or the board meeting, which is your board meeting this particular month.
Yes, ma'am. And for the record, you know where I stand on discounts, and you know where I stand about the drivers. So it is in no way a reflection on my thought of the discounts. And I want to make that very clear to everyone here and outside.
No, obviously, we know, and I do recall how you voted, that you wanted no tolls increase. So knowing what I know from the history of the voting here, I think we do need that time that you're affording us. And the question is, can we please revisit what we can afford to do so we can spend? I believe that when we implemented the discount program, we did so. And it's a great program because the SunPass, the frequent user, have a great benefit to that. Obviously, legislators don't believe that that's good enough because they want more, but I agree somewhat with them that what else could we do? And we've already reviewed what else can we do, but obviously we can't do the 5% across the board and lose the bottom of MDX.
Well, hopefully, the folks that are out there will get the information that has been posed in this meeting, because I think it's very pertinent for MDX, for the drivers, and for the community on the whole. So having said that, I look forward to the meeting at the end of the month, and thank you all for being here. Sir?
Yeah, and I'll be ready to present our legal positions on what the options are for the board, not doing anything, how we can rectify what's currently not enabling us to get satisfactory funding in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaldivar.
Since,
Mr. Martinez?
do we need to, although we're 7-day rule, do we need to, and I don't know the rule, I apologize.
okay.
It's been a 7-day rule, do we need to get, does it just automatically go to the next board meeting, or do we need to vote to get it there? I just want to make sure we're all good.
It is my understanding, based on the will of this board, that that item will be an agenda item on the June 26th meeting.
Want to make sure.
And we will prepare for the committee meetings as customary. So we will discuss this moving to the June 26th meeting.
And I would like to encourage all board members to take the opportunity to have some healthy conversations with staff and the executive director, because it's very important that you know what we're doing today and tomorrow. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Second.
Thank you very much.